Right, we already know Caitlin Clark showed up and put put the belt down on Natalie Nakase Golden State Valkyries. Tiffany Hayes was doing a little bit too much yapping, and it seems like some shots was fired from the Golden State Valkyries in the post game. Y'all should just take y'all medicine and try to do better next. Natalie Nakase, we got a couple things to play from her, and then Tiffany Hayes tried to downplay Caitlin Clark's performance. We got to get into it. Let's take a listen to what Natalie Nakase had to say.
Caitlin Clark was expected to quietly enter the WNBA, sell some jerseys, and slowly adjust to the league's biggest stars. But the entire script changed the moment she stepped onto the court. She didn't arrive like a rookie. She arrived like a storm, hitting logo threes, breaking records, and instantly become the most talked about player in basketball. Now the tension around the league is impossible to hide. Tiffany Hayes and Natalie Nakase have fans constantly talking, with every comment, reaction, and awkward moment adding more fuel to the drama. Some people call it competition. Others see jealousy over the spotlight Caitlin Clark now controls. But the biggest question still remains. Are these critics actually exposing a flaw in Clark's game, or are they proving just how fast she's changing the WNBA forever?
This may have been the night that Caitlin Clark put the league on notice. I've had enough of y'all's bullshit. I've had enough. You want to hack me? You want to foul me? Referees? Whoa. Got to be more careful. I mean, this was an ugly, ugly game. It was an ugly win.
Before we move on, smash that like button and subscribe, because you already know the story is only getting crazier from here. Everybody expected Caitlin Clark to eventually struggle against the WNBA's physicality. That was supposed to be the narrative. Defenders were going to bump her, trap her, talk trash, pressure her the second she crossed half court, and finally humble the rookie superstar who entered the league with fearless confidence. But Caitlin Clark doesn't play like someone intimidated by the moment. She pulls up from 40 feet, like it's completely normal, launching deep threes with the same ease as tossing laundry into a basket from across the room. And that confidence is exactly what's driving the entire basketball world insane.
The Indiana Fever defeat the Valkyries for the first time after last season getting swept by them in a game that I really wanted the Indiana Fever to win. Caitlin Clark was back in the lineup, and this thing at one point turned into the Caitlin Clark versus Tiffany Hayes duel. And man, it was competitive. They were talking junk to each other. They were firing up. It was physical. They were letting each other have it. And at the end of the day, Caitlin got the better of the situation, finished the game with 22 points, 9 boards, looking every bit like the MVP candidate that she is.
Instead, the exact opposite keeps happening. And now every team that tries to teach her a lesson somehow ends up starring in Caitlin Clark's personal highlight reel. This time, the Golden State Valkyries volunteered themselves for the experiment. And things went downhill so fast that by the end of the night, it felt less like a basketball game and more like a live-action stress test for Natalie Nakase's patience and Tiffany Hayes' self-control.
So that was a lot of fun. The Indiana Fever showed a lot of fight against the Golden State Valkyries because the Valkyries came out, they're a team, they have length, they have athleticism, they were hacking a little bit, and the Fever fought through it. Caitlin Clark fought through it. She had struggled against the Valkyries last year, not in this one. She's been hitting the logo bombs. She's diming people up. Got the support from Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell. As always, Sophie Cunningham was good off the bench. Raven Johnson made a nice impression in her minutes, and it was nice to see the Fever fight.
Valkyries came into the matchup talking about physicality, pressure defense, disruption, and making Caitlin Clark uncomfortable. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark walked into the arena looking like someone who had already seen the ending of the movie and already knew exactly who was about to get embarrassed.
As I've done many practices before, as many of my teammates have done, had every intention of playing, didn't indicate I wasn't going to play, approached Wednesday, if that was the day of our game, as I was 100% playing. Woke up Tuesday, felt a little sore, texted our training staff, texted my personal physio. Then do you want to know what I ate for breakfast too? So then I had a filet, I had 2 eggs over medium, I had potatoes, and 2 blueberry waffles with butter and syrup.
Before the game even tipped off, Natalie Nakase was already explaining exactly how the Valkyries plan to slow Caitlin Clark down. Pick her up high because she shoots from the logo, send multiple defenders, make the game physical. Force her left because that step-back jumper is almost automatic. On paper, the strategy honestly sounded smart. The problem is that basketball games are not played on paper. They're played in real time. And Caitlin Clark treats defensive schemes the same way most people treat the terms and conditions on an iPhone update. She notices them for 2 seconds, ignores them completely,
discussing
and keeps
35-foot
moving.
jumpers like
Clark
they are
is coaching
routine
series
free
of discussing
throws.
35-foot
That is not normal
jumpers
basketball
like they're
behavior.
routine
That is
free
the
throws.
basketball
That is
equivalent of
not
somebody
normal
parallel
basketball
parking a
behavior.
monster truck
That's
with
the
one hand
basketball
while
equivalent
eating
of somebody parallel
tacos. The
parking a
Valkyries
monster
wanted to
truck
disrupt her
with
rhythm
one hand,
early,
while
but Clark
casually
immediately
eating
started
tacos
doing
with
what
the
she
other.
always does
The
whenever
Valkyries
defenses
wanted to
become
disrupt her
too
rhythm
aggressive.
early.
She
But
turned
Clark
their pressure
immediately
against
did what
them.
she always
The
does
traps
when
created
defenses become too
openings.
aggressive. She turned their pressure against them. The traps created openings.
Watching film, what is your message to your team about slowing her down?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you got to pick her up higher. She shoots from the logo, so you can't pick her up at the logo, just because, again, that's a super comfortable shot. It's almost like a layup to her, especially her going to her left. So we just got to be aware. And it's just not about just an individual matchup. It's going to be a team effort because they play so fast. So we're going to be in constant communication, picking her up, whoever's closest. And then, obviously, physicality. Like, you can put some physicality on her.
Teams open passing lanes. The physical defense only seemed to make Caitlin Clark even more locked in. Every time Golden State tried to crowd her space, Clark answered with another deep three that made the arena explode like fans had just witnessed a magic trick in real time. And the scariest part for the Valkyries was that none of it looked forced. Some players put up big numbers by taking chaotic shots and barely surviving possessions. Clark was controlling the entire game with complete composure. She was reading defenders before they even moved. She was pulling help defenders out of position. She was manipulating spacing like a chess master, thinking 3 moves ahead while everybody else was still trying to figure out the board. Meanwhile, Golden State kept talking about disruption and physicality, with the Valkyries suggesting Clark does not like physical defense. That comment instantly sent social media into meltdown mode because basketball fans have spent the last year watching Caitlin Clark absorb contact like a human crash test dummy. Defenders grab her, bump her, trap her, shove her, and sometimes guard her like she personally changed their Netflix password. Yet somehow, people still keep trying to label her as soft.
To see why Caitlin Clark has been getting her back readjusted in previous games, because there's no game plan out there to relieve the pressure off her. As much as her coach talks about it, I would love to see it be put into action. My criticism on Stephanie White is more so on her philosophy of the game than anything else, right? And yes, she said some nasty things and did nasty things, but my biggest gripe with her is the philosophy, because I genuinely feel like if she rolls out a good product of basketball out there with Caitlin Clark's system, then a lot of the criticism from or surrounding her will die down. But I don't think she understands that. But
reality is actually the complete opposite. Caitlin Clark gets defended with a level of aggression that very few guards in the league consistently experience. Teams throw double teams, traps, physical contact, and constant pressure at her because they know one tiny defensive mistake can instantly turn into a logo 3 and a viral highlight scene by millions within minutes. The physicality is not proof that Clark is weak. It is proof that opponents are terrified of giving her even a single inch of space. And honestly, Natalie Nakase's comments probably would have sounded a lot better if Caitlin Clark had not immediately walked onto court and completely destroyed the entire defensive game plan anyway. That is the part people keep forgetting. If your strategy actually works, then you earn the right to talk afterward. But Clark's deep threes started feeling less like basketball shots and more like psychological warfare. Every time Golden State thought they had forced her into a difficult possession, Clark casually stepped backward and launched another missile from somewhere near the parking lot. At one point, it genuinely looked like the Valkyries defended her perfectly. The contest was tight. The help defense rotated on time. The trap arrived exactly when it was supposed to. And then Clark still drilled the shot anyway, which is basically the basketball version of studying 6 hours for a test only to watch the smartest kid finish in 12 minutes while eating chips in the front row.
In crunch time, it was funny. I guess they thought that was real or something, so they were allowing her to like go ISO on Caitlin while she had 5 fouls, and she was like throwing up running off balance hook shots off the glass, and I was like, there's no way you couldn't get a better shot than that. I wanted this win over the Valkyries because Nakase, I feel like, was so cocky and arrogant last year when she was discussing Caitlin, like, oh yeah, we figured her out.
Tiffany Hayes also tried to downplay Caitlin Clark's performance after the game, saying the Valkyries simply needed to clean up the little things and focus on themselves. Technically, that is a completely normal athlete response. Players say versions of that after losses all the time, but fans instantly rolled their eyes because there is no small adjustment for somebody casually pulling up from distances usually reserved for emergency exits. You cannot tighten a few defensive screws and magically stop a player who completely bends the geometry of the basketball court. That is the real nightmare Caitlin Clark creates for defenses. She stretches the floor so far that normal basketball spacing stops making sense. The second she crosses half court, defenders panic, coaches panic, entire defensive systems start panicking. Suddenly, every possession feels dangerous because one mistake can instantly turn into 3 points and another viral highlight. Golden State repeatedly hunted Clark in isolation situations, trying to wear her down and expose defensive weaknesses. Clark admitted afterward that they were targeting her, but Indiana responded by forcing tough contested shots and locking things down late in the game. And that part matters because one of the oldest lazy narratives surrounding elite offensive guards is that they cannot defend. Meanwhile, Clark was battling through physical possessions on one end while still carrying offensive pressure on the other. That balance is what separates truly great players from athletes who only live inside highlight one explosive scoring night. But true superstars take over games even when the entire defense is built to stop them. That is exactly what Caitlin Clark did. No matter what Golden State threw at her, double teams, physical defense, nonstop pressure, she kept delivering. She kept scoring. She kept creating opportunities for her teammates. She stayed locked in defensively, and most importantly, she controlled the pace of the entire game from start to finish. Then came the technical foul drama, which somehow made an already intense matchup even more chaotic. After the game, Clark laughed about the referees and the possibility of fines. But by that point, the officiating had become part of the spectacle itself. Every whistle felt controversial. Every call added more tension to a game that was already boiling over emotionally. Players were frustrated. Coaches were frustrated. Fans were furious. Yet right in the center of all the chaos stood Caitlin Clark, casually pulling up from deep and knocking down impossible threes like pressure simply did not exist for her. That is a reality whenever Clark steps onto court now. Every matchup feels bigger. Every reaction becomes headline news. Every post-game comment gets analyzed across social media like a major political debate. With that level of attention comes emotion, pressure, and controversy. That is also why comments about Clark constantly explode online. Some people view criticism toward her as jealousy.